Hello and welcome to the Style of Play podcast. I am your host, Kojo, with the awful camera, and next to me with the beautiful camera is Basil. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. First of all, I just want to say a big hello and good evening to all those whose teams collected 3 points in
Incredible.
the week. So yeah, that's how I'm going to begin.
Incredible. Wow. Okay. All right. Damn. Um, oh, that's rattled me. Okay. Uh, that's rattled me. Okay. Let's just start with you guys then, since you got 3 points in the bag midweek. Home game against Brentford, if I'm correct, and just off the bat, I was a bit surprised by both lineups. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't expecting, rather, I should say, Arsenal to bench Saka for the game. Nor was
Mhm.
I expecting Brentford to bench Igor Thiago for the game. Not sure what's going on there. But either way, Arsenal came through 2-0 winners. Goals from Mika Mourinho and Saka off the bench to make it two. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think the the Arsenal changes don't. I think they didn't surprise me as much.
Okay.
I think the reason why is obviously like we've got 3 games in a week. There's also a Champions League game coming up, and I think Arsenal play on Tuesday. So I think because we were at home, I think it was like probably the perfect opportunity to rest players during this
Mm,
game. I guess the only surprise for me, Brentford dropping Thiago, who's been one of their most informed players of the week. That for me personally, I did not understand. Because Brentford don't have the luxury of the manner games Arsenal have to play for them to be resting players, and they're in good form.
yeah.
And he's been a part of that. And obviously, like I said, I was more fearful of Thiago and some of the problems he may cause. But obviously, when I saw he wasn't starting, I was a bit relieved. I was like, it makes life a bit more easier
Mm,
for us. Because they then changed to having like a five at the back, three at the back, and two wing backs. And I think that helped Arsenal a lot. I think they were too worried about what Arsenal can do rather than focusing on their own game. And I think that kind of allowed Arsenal to be at ease somewhat. It wasn't an easy game, but it allowed Arsenal to be at ease somewhat because of those changes. So I don't think Brentford helped themselves with their changes. And I think Arsenal yeah, I think it was the perfect game because, like I said, Villa away June, and like I said, that's a 12:30 kickoff. That's going to be a difficult game for Arsenal, which to come through. And I suspect Arsenal will then rest players for the Champions League game because they're playing Club Brugge away. So I suspect Arsenal will probably use the opportunity, especially being top of the table so far. And there's no benefits to finish top of the table. To be honest, we have to do is finish in top eight. I assume they probably will rotate players for that game.
It's interesting. You use the word ease, and I hate to admit it, but I think watching the Arsenal game now, it just feels like Arsenal are at ease. And I think it's a perfect word because sometimes when you see a team's cruising through the game, that can also be a negative. They're cruising through as in they're just not making any impact. Whereas Arsenal are comfortable. They control situations. And
Mhm.
if you make a chance, you have to work hard for it. I think Brentford came close on maybe one or two occasions, but over the course of 90 minutes, considering what Arsenal did and how they controlled the game,
Yeah.
it looked like it was another day in the park for Arsenal. That's for me, being a rival, that's frustrating. But if I'm watching as a neutral, it's quite captivating to watch because it's very rare that you see teams at that level of comfortability, no matter who's in the lineup as well, which is impressive. A far cry from the stresses that you used to have so a while back, no?
Yeah, no, it's completely different, and I think it's because one, we defend well as a team,
Mm.
and two, I think, as I said, the word you use is control. We just control the ball very, very well, and I think yeah, that allows us to kind of be at ease with in a lot of these games. The only time we weren't was when we played Chelsea away
Oh yeah.
during the week, but we were just poor on the ball for that particular day.
But
So
you're gonna have your off days, isn't it? You can't be perfect all the time. There's gonna be days where it's just not good. As long as you put out a result, I think it's the most important thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse as well. Nice segue, because speaking of Chelsea, now I'm not gonna put the smoke on Theo here. I'm gonna put a smoke on another Chelsea fan. I don't know his name, but I've pretty much seen. I'm sure I've seen him on some platforms here and there, and he was talking
Yeah.
about Arsenal not being, good enough to beat Chelsea at 10 men, and they're 90-minute merchants. I don't know what the hell that means, by the way. But he watched his team then go to Yorkshire, to Ellen Road in particular, and they were hit for free.
I don't think anybody was surprised by it, even though that's the thing. People, the thing about this, right? Chelsea were only second by default, and this is everyone gets, and I hate the fact people do this because they did the same thing last season.
Mm,
Everyone always thinks Chelsea are in a title race when they get close to whoever is at the top, but forget all the bad form they've had prior to this because there's been many games where Chelsea haven't performed well.
yeah,
Sunderland, they didn't perform well. They beat Ajax handsomely, but that was because Ajax had a man or two sent off in that game. There's what other games have they had? They've had a number of games where they haven't performed well this season. And I was like, we can't forget all of that. The only reason why they were second was one, because Liverpool are so bad.
yeah.
City kind of slipped up. Some of the other teams also slipped up. And look what's happened now. Look at they're now fourth. And that's how things change very quickly in the league. 1 minute they're second and saying, oh, they're going to challenge Arsenal. Oh, it's time for them to do it. Next minute they're fourth. And that's how quickly things can change within the space of 3, 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, and you can take Arsenal. If Arsenal, for instance, if they drew against Chelsea, lost to Brentford, and lose to Villa, they would have gone from like first to second or third potentially, depending on what the results are. So I always look at when you're going to talk about teams challenging, look at what they've done throughout the whole season rather than just the last two, three or four games where you think, oh, now they're in a title race. Chelsea are inconsistent. They're not good defensively.
No.
They don't really play that well. And Maresca, for me, he's just his own worst enemy. Tactically, I don't think he's good. And he's always chopping and changing the team with these strange decisions. And that doesn't help Chelsea. So I was not surprised in the slightest that Chelsea lost 3-1 to Leeds. It is Chelsea under Maresca, and it always has been Chelsea under Maresca.
I don't, yeah, I'm with you. I wasn't surprised at the loss, but I was surprised at how quickly they were down.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one kind of threw me because I didn't have a moment to, obviously, I'm picking what game to watch, and I didn't have a moment to get to the game.
Yeah.
I get to the game and I see one. I was like, whoa, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? But no, you're right. There is such an inconsistency about Chelsea. And, we can talk about, yes, of course, they're missing Palmer. He's now coming back into the fold. But they've been so loud about how Caicedo has been.
Mm.
Reece James had maybe one good game at centre midfield this season, and they've
One good game and they're going overboard.
honestly, it's
He's had a lot of shockers in midfield.
oh, he has, and it's quite baffling. But this is what football is now. Well, I say football is probably life as well. The era of everything must be immediate. Everything's now, 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 now.
I also say this, Kojo, it's a lot easier to put in especially for someone like Reece James, who's a defender by trade,
Mm,
a lot easier to put in a good midfield display when you have 10 men and don't have the majority of the ball. Not saying like I said, he was very good on the day and probably the best player on the pitch on the day, but
mm,
it's a lot easier when you have 10 men and you don't have much of the ball.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that, so that also contributed to Reece James also having a good game in midfield because obviously it was him being disciplined, good defensively, good closing down plays, and it was also good on the ball. But then it's a lot easier where you don't have to like dictate the game because you have less men. So you're not the onus isn't on you to keep possession because if you lose possession and they have a man advantage, you could be exploited. So
Yeah.
like I said, it was a lot easier for him to have a very good midfield display because he didn't have to do much passing around as much as the Arsenal midfield did because they were a lot more defensive because they had the man advantage. Oh, they didn't have the man advantage, sorry.
Well, I think that alludes to the fact that people have said it many times in the past that 10 men is harder to beat than 11 because they are forced to be so structured.
Exactly.
And I guess, as the team with 11 men, you have the idea to take the impetus going forward and try to get the goal. So you get hit sometimes. It's a weird one, but let's give some praise to Leeds. Now, I will say this: you have to be really bad defensively to consider the goal by Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'm just gonna say that right now. You know what I mean? Calvert-Lewin, if you're listening, no disrespect, but you haven't been really good in the last couple of years. So, numbers wise. Okay. I wish Theo was here to answer this question because I genuinely don't know the answer. But I'm gonna ask you. Maybe you have an idea because I still don't know. What is Chelsea's best centre back pairing?
They don't have a best centre back pairing. That's the issue.
So no matter the pairing,
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they're pairing. They're all bad defensively. Like
fair.
I would say there's two issues at Chelsea. One of them is that all of them, all those every single one of those defenders or center, let's use centre back, sorry, are not good. They're not to the standard that would help Chelsea kind of compete effectively.
Mm,
And then the biggest issue Chelsea have is the coaching. It's down to Maresca because even though I say they're not good enough, they're not bad defenders. I've seen worse defenders achieve a lot more and look a lot more solid than those Chelsea defenders. And those Chelsea defenders are better than a lot of defenders in the league.
mm.
So I am beyond surprised as to how bad they are. But that's a coaching issue. That's been like that since the day that um, Maresca joined the club. He's just not been able to um, get that defending properly. I don't like, he loves to work on the control, the attacking elements, but there is a huge neglect defensively. And that for me is down to Maresca. Because like I said, they're not the best of defenders, but they're not the worst of defenders.
Right, right. Well, if you talk about not defending, that's another lovely segue to Anfield. Um, from one bold manager to another. Liverpool won. Sunderland won. Now, gonna give Sunderland some credit here because another tough game for them in terms of, they on paper you expect them to go out there and probably lose and they have recruited well, but they're going to Anfield. We know how Liverpool have been, but usually it'll be Liverpool will be favourites for a game at home anyway. But they went there and they produced one hell of a performance, came close on many different occasions, gave them one hell of a game, took a deserved lead, and Liverpool got a big slice of luck to get their equaliser,
Mm.
um, qualified as an own goal. But let's talk about the defending first because I can't lie, brother. So I'm gonna just toot my own horn here a little bit. 2016 is when I started my own podcast with two of my boys. And from that day, I have said you must never, ever, ever defend with your back to the ball. Stand up your opponent and make sure they beat you. Because if they beat you, at least I can look at you and say, you tried your best to defend that, and they actually just done you. I don't think there's any shame in that. You can become a meme for a week. I couldn't care less. Just defend. Virgil van Dijk, come to the stand. He defends like a coward.
Wow, straight
He
to the point.
defends like a coward. I'm just gonna call it straight. You have, yes, there's a player running here, but I think it was Kirkis or Robertson, whoever was on pitch at that time, had to cover that guy. You had another guy here. Kanate has him. So the guy in front of you is yours. Genuinely, he's yours. There's no if, buts, or maybes. He is your player. Defend him. Defend him all the way. And what does he do? He cowers away. He turns his back, which, oh, by the way, is one of the worst positions to be in because if he just decides to go the other way, you're twisting your whole body to come and do something. You're making your life difficult.
Mm.
And the most poetic thing about it is people have been mocking him, saying that he defends with his bum. Well, the ball hit his bum and flew into the bottom corner. For me, it's cowardly. And that's not me trying to put it on Van Dijk by himself. Any defender that's defended like that in the past, I have called them cowards. That is a coward's way of defending. You do not turn your back to the ball, especially when the ball is near your box. You can't. And if not that, the other one where you have it's more of a fullback problem. They refuse to engage their wingers. They back off and back off and back off and allow corners, allow crosses. It's just a nonsense. It's as much nonsense as me looking at my screen right now and seeing Donald Trump win a FIFA award.
The FIFA Peace Award. What on
A
earth is
piece of all people. Anyway, you know
it?
what? Let's get back to the
Yeah.
football. Genuine thoughts on him because look, he has been the standard of defending in the Premier League for and probably in Europe to be fair to him for a while now. But
Yeah, I'll say
go
this.
on, go on.
So usually, sometimes the criticism of him like turning his body has been harsh.
Mm,
Sometimes there are times is like the one on Sunderland was just needless. And the reason why I say is that usually when a defender twists their body, it's as if there's another player around him. So you kind of twist your body in that kind of way to say, well, it's twisted in an amount where I can still react to kind of close down someone or go block, but also if they play someone through, I can get to them easily. That's usually why defenders twist their body in the way that Van Dijk usually does.
Yeah.
To cover both, if I need to follow the runner, I can follow the runner. If I need to close down and shut down someone having a shot, I can do that. Yesterday's the game against Sunderland was just absolutely needless. Wednesday's game of him doing it because there was no one around him, so there was no need for him to twist his body and back off at the same time. For me, is either position your body correctly or closing down. I don't know why he was backing off, and then twisting his body in the manner that he usually does in that kind of position. So I do agree with you in that um, opinion, it is kind of cowardice. I'm not sure why he does it and why he's still doing it, considering the amount of times he's done it this season and it has cost Liverpool a goal based upon certain deflection. So I think it's something that he needs to review. And then my final point is I really hated the narrative people have really given around Van Dijk, right? Especially, and I'll call out people's names on Talksport, like Rory.
Okay.
Anything. He was saying like Van Dijk's not one of the top elite centre backs. There was one pod where he was in was saying Matthias de Ligt is a better centre back than Van Dijk.
Wait, before that, was that just based off the season in terms of form, or you was just saying like a
Honestly, the guy, she tries to use this season. Even if it is this season, I wouldn't even say de Ligt has been the top performing defender
not,
this
he hasn't
season.
been the top defender,
No,
no.
no, no, there's an improvement from what we've seen before, but I would not have his name as one of the top defenders in the league, considering what's been happening with Manchester United.
Mm,
Because you can still have not get the results, but stand out. And I wouldn't say he's stood out as a defender. He's just had some decent games, but also had bad games this season. And then secondly, he said he wouldn't put him with the likes of John Terry and I can't remember Sol Campbell. He was saying like
right.
they would never allow their clubs to be in the position that they are now. And I said, hold on, you forget one thing. Those defenders have had bad seasons with their clubs. I think what it is people always like to reinvent the performances of clubs in the past and the performances of defenders. Because John Terry has been in bad Chelsea teams where they have not performed whatsoever in the season.
Yeah.
John Terry has been in Chelsea teams where they've won a league and there's a complete drop off the season after. So has Sol Campbell. So when people try to reinvent or revise players. I mean, every defender can have bad season, every defender can have bad moments. But then the question I would say is that, well, at their pinnacle, how good were they? And Van Dijk is 100% up there with some of the best defenders, not just in the league, but in world football, when you look at how he's defended and the things he's done as a defender. Yes, he's going through a bad patch with Liverpool. That's fine, but I can't say he's the worst defender at Liverpool,
No.
considering who he's being partnered against. He doesn't have any settled fullbacks to work with, and Kanate is just really, really off the boil. So I can't say so. Van Dijk he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been the worst. But like I said, there are times where he needs to stop that twisting of his body. That is unacceptable. So he
No,
does look at
it,
that.
it, it baffles me because obviously we know how good he is as a physical specimen. He's gifted with physical abilities that a lot of people would dream of in terms of being in that as a footballer, tall, strong, but quick,
Yeah.
can play a pass, long or short, dominant in the air. Like he's got the package that you would want in your ideal centre back when you're going to assign him and have him in your lineup. But and this is coming from me who even when he was at Southampton, I was calling him at that time the third best centre back in the league.
See that you can see the ability, and I hate also to hop on what you say, Coach. Even people are using that against him. They're saying, "Oh, look at where some of these defenders were playing when they're younger." And they say, "Oh, was playing for Celtic and Southampton." Who
Mm.
cares who you play for? The thing is, when you're playing for both clubs, did we see the ability? You can tell he was going to be a top centre back
Yep,
from when he was at Celtic, from when he was at Southampton.
yep,
To be honest. It's just at that, like I said, clubs are very risk averse. No one wanted to take the risk, and it was Liverpool that said, "Hey, we'll take the risk." And look how that turned out. If
yeah,
anyone else had came for him beforehand, I'm pretty sure City came for him, but didn't want to pay the fee that Southampton were quoting. So like I said, if someone came for him earlier, you would have still seen the top level ability that this guy had. It's just unfortunate he was plying his trade at Celtic and Southampton. But not everyone always goes straight to a big club very early, as people do nowadays. Because like I said, there was a lot of top players floating around in that era. Now there's a lack because if Van Dijk was operating at that same time now,
hmm
maybe there isn't a much. But like I said, but when you look, there's a scarcity of players to choose from now than there was before. So if Van Dijk was operating at Celtic Southampton at the ages now, someone would have snapped him up immediately without a second's thought.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that. I think that's where our disappointment in him is stemming from right now. Like he's not gonna go down in the estimations of how great he's been, but we expect so much better in terms of
100%.
Liverpool as a whole. Now we spoke about one manager today. We'll speak about another manager. I think manager's gonna be another theme we speak about later on. Um, Arne Slot, who I don't know if he gets a thrill in pretty much just saying the things he's saying really, really loud in press conferences and then matching the nonsense in the press conferences with the nonsense on the pitch. But it just seems like he's lost for ideas. What do you think his main issue is, genuinely?
I, I think I think he's lost of ideas. And you know, I was trying to pinpoint what the issue was, and I was listening to I can't remember it was Talksport I was listening to, and they did make a good point that made me think because what they said was when he came in last season, it wasn't his players.
Hmm,
So I think they said like he probably um withdrew like maybe some of the tactics and the ideas maybe he wanted to do because he had to work with what he had to work with.
right,
And I think what they also mentioned that well this year, you know, some of the probably some of the players he's requested or the player type of players he wants
right.
have come and he's now trying to implement his ideas and styles with those players. And maybe he's just been found out that it's not as good as maybe what people thought it will be. Maybe that's one theory. And I thought to myself, you know what, that could be correct because I'm trying to pinpoint how someone goes from winning the league last season, looking very competitive and exciting, to just looking very bad this season. I can't pinpoint it. And Liverpool haven't been good since game one. Not even since game one. Yeah, since game one. And I'll go back as far back as the Community Shield. Because
Hmm.
even though they won their first five matches, they were scraping goals. Even in the Champions League, that first Champions League game that they had where they who I can't remember which team they were playing where they conceded two goals. Atletico Madrid for
Oh
2-0
yes, yes.
scored a last minute winner. They were scraping by in these matches, but just won those games. So even you can go back to when the season started, they haven't played well whatsoever. I can't even recall to you more than two games as to which Liverpool played well this season. They've been that bad. And I honestly I'm shocked as to how bad they are. But maybe, like I said, it's because now he's trying to implement those ideas, and those ideas just aren't great ideas with the players that he has. And it's just being found out now that he doesn't have to work with a Klopp team who are kind of used and geared towards winning and having a winning mentality because they'd won things prior.
Here's a question for you before I put my idea in.
Yeah.
Isak's form, is it Isak's issue or his issue?
You know, I wish I could. And usually, I always have an answer for something. I wish I could
Banana.
give you an answer. Honestly, I don't know because it's a combination. Like the players, no idea what's going on with the players. They just seemed devoid of any ideas on the pitch, and they don't seem to be working as hard as I've seen them in previous seasons.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't help himself with some of the tactics. He seems tactically clueless from the start and also in game as the game is going on. Doesn't seem to know what to do tactically. So it's a hard one to kind of pinpoint who the real problem is.
So I think personally, so in terms of supply for Isak, I think Isak's got the issue that um strikers at Man United have had in the past.
Mm,
Because if he were, if I feel like if he had joined Liverpool at the time where they had Robertson and Trent,
mm. Oh,
um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then that set midfield, Salah, and yeah, you can put Gakpo there if you want to, or like a TK9 that he's there. But I feel like if he had that extra bit of creativity around him, I think he has a lot more chances.
Yeah.
However, I think he is shocked by the fact that he's no longer the main man.
Literally about to say that, coach. Literally, follow. Yeah, you are
Yeah,
absolutely. So the issue you have with Liverpool and Newcastle, which is we're struggling to adapt. Newcastle is the main man. He's the best player. No one can kind of score goals or create chances out of nothing in the manner that he did. And you can see with the Newcastle team now, with Wolf Marte, he doesn't have that same level of ability as Isak.
yeah.
You can see the team are kind of struggling a bit because they don't have that over reliance on a player. At Newcastle, like I said, players will happily feed Isak the ball, even if they're in a better position, because they know he's the one. Players, once they get the ball, will look to feed Isak quickly because they know he's the main man. At Liverpool, that's not the case. I remember the game over the weekend where Gakpo had the ball. And I think he took a shot, and Isak wasn't happy with him because he kind of made a run, peeled back, and called for the ball, and Gakpo took a shot. Wasn't happy. And I thought to myself, if that was Newcastle, they would have fed him that ball immediately.
Yes, yes.
Immediately. And that's the issue now. He's having to adapt where he's not the main man. He's not going to receive the ball as quickly as he might. And sometimes he may not receive the ball if he's in a position where he wants to score because these Liverpool players I've played at a level where it's like I want to be the main man or I can do things because obviously the Newcastle players understand they are not to the level of Isak, whereas the Liverpool players have a thing where, oh, I'm good enough to be able to be the one to make the difference. And so they need to kind of figure out that dynamic.
Yeah, I'm happy you said it like that. Honestly, I was listening to what Slot said earlier today about he gets 14 touches average, I guess, or wherever at Liverpool. At Newcastle it was 22. Now, the reason I don't like him saying that out loud is because that's gonna be twisted to say that, well, so he doesn't get many touches, he doesn't know what he's can.
Mm.
You know how fans go. We know where people the media goes with direction like that. But at the same time, he's not wrong. Those 8 touches are something. Now, in today's game, we see it. A lot more touches and passes come from the back line these days because they control from the back. You press high, your centre backs, your defensive midfielders, they get more touches, more passes. Your attacking players get minimal touches. They have to make things happen. Keep going quick, 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 quick. Maybe your wingers get a lot more touches. But if he's number 9, he is looking for the service.
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
not like back in the day where you had maybe a partner in the 4-4-2 or the 4-3-3, you who are so interchangeable that you would get as many touches as the wingers. These
Yeah,
days, it seems like the number 9 is so isolated that they must wait for everything to come to them, but they're stuck because we're still in the era of football where it's so rigid that the players from defensive midfield must follow a certain formula, a certain method, and it often isolates the striker. Now, if he's going to get these touches, the one thing you must put him in is always be in dangerous areas.
hmm
And if you're looking for him to drift off onto the left, he's not going to have joy
yeah,
because Gakpo and Ekitike, that's their area. The only person that's not getting any attention when that ball is on that side is Salah. And Salah's not drifting in as much as he used to. But then, in my theory, in my opinion, I think Salah's legs are now slowly going. So he's not going to be the same player. He's still got a high level of quality, but you're not going to get the Salah you had 5, 4, maybe even 3 years ago.
yeah.
Um, so I think he's got an issue there. But again, when you recruit smart. Kirkes and Robertson are not similar. So
Mm,
that's a big change.
yeah,
Trent and Frimpong are nowhere near similar. So that's a
yeah,
huge change. You have not had a number 10 in your team like Verts. Maybe you might want to reference Coutinho because he was a 10 for them, but Coutinho was way back when, and he had 1 year with Klopp and he left. So that team moved on without him. He's no longer a factor. So they haven't played with a strong 10 in a long time. And you've bought 2 high-level strikers for huge fees. You've given yourself a problem there. 2 players that want to play in the number 9 position, but also what they want to do, they also want to drift to the left because that's the space they love that to occupy. Gives an issue to people like Chiesa, gives an issue to people like Gakpo. I think he has completely messed up the balance, and it shows in their performances. So when they're scraping performances, you said it, I said it, Theo said it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Liverpool fans said it as well. There are going to be losses that come, and they're going to start hitting. And look at where they are now, and it just speaks volumes. So big question now because it looks like the fans are slowly turning at Liverpool. How
mm.
long do you think he lasts?
I think he should be given an entire season.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Here's the issue. I think managers should be afforded to have one bad season if they've achieved something with the club. So if I compare it to Ten Hag and Amorim, right? If I compare it to those managers, Ten Hag came in, looked bright, but it was bad from the beginning. It was
Mm.
I say inconsistent from the beginning and then went bad. And obviously the trophies itself couldn't cover him from how he was performing overall in the season in the other competitions in the league. Amorim has come in and it's been bad since
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
been there. So if people wanted to make a change, you could understand people wanted to make because like we haven't seen it be good. Whereas, well, Slot last season they were competitive in the Champions League, just went out by penalties to the eventual winners PSG.
yeah,
Um, they got to a League Cup final, not to be understated, just lost. They won the league. So I'm like, he's had a good season. That should be able to buy him one bad season. I think they can have a bad season, even if they don't finish in the top four. I think he should be afforded one bad season because then it's like, what are you building for? You can't build for just people always having success. You need to put in time for the times when it isn't successful.
yeah.
And because he's won the league, got to a final, competed in Champions League, if they can finish 10th for all I care, I think he should still be afforded this season to say, you know what? We'll allow this season to slide. And then if the season after it doesn't pick up, then I think you can talk about getting rid of him. I think we're too knee-jerk reaction when we're talking about sacking a manager who won the league about 3 months, 4 months into a season.
Mm,
I know lots of Liverpool fans are impatient, but like you're gonna go through these cycles, unfortunately. The league, obviously, Liverpool's form is unacceptable. I'm not saying it's unacceptable, but the league is so competitive now. You have to put contingencies in plan for when a team falls off.
yeah,
If your manager has achieved something, I think he should be given at least the season to say, you know what, we can write off that one season. Let's see what happens the season after. Because let's not forget, let's look at Klopp. There was that season Klopp scraped a top four position where I thought they weren't going to get a top four position, where they were languishing between fifth and sixth and seventh for most of the season. And they only got that full spot, I think, in the second last game or the last
yeah,
game. And
yeah.
then look at what he went to. He still went to win things after that season. So I do think managers should be afforded one bad season at least if you have achieved something with that team.
Fair. Okay. Well, here's another question for you.
The results need to pick up, but if it's me being reasonable, I would say, regardless of how bad the results again, give him to the end of the season, assess, and then say, listen, you've got a few games at the beginning of next season to kind of pick things up. If you don't see progress and you can see there's a pattern of it not improving, then get rid of him.
Fair. Okay. So one season for him. What about Ruben Amorim?
Ah, yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I
Yeah.
don't- It's bad, but when you look at your position, you're not far off the top three. Oh, sorry, from third, you're not far off
Yeah.
the place. So it's the biggest issue having Amarim is two things. One, the consistency in the performances on the pitch.
Yep.
Let's forget the results. The performances just are not good. Are not good. So that's the first one. Then the second one is some players just have not improved under him. And I think it's criminal what he's doing to Kobe Manu. Because, like I said, I do think the way people are praising Kobe Manu was just ridiculous, comparing him to Zidane, saying he's the best young talent that they've seen in a very long time. The boy
Mm,
had talent, but not to the levels people are talking about. But like I said, we've seen so many bad performances from Casemiro. We've seen so many bad performances from Ugarte. We've seen so many bad performances from Bruno when he's played deep. Like, surely Kobe Mainoo can't be any worse than what those guys are doing. And we know he has talent. So
yeah.
I'm like, how can you not give that boy at least an opportunity to have a run of games and prove himself in that team? And for me, it shows that I question how well he's able to work with players, coach players effectively, and improve players because that man knew it is really, really bad at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's gone before the end of the season, if these inconsistencies continue to happen. Because what you want to see, you can start off bad, but you want to see improvements. And I don't think the improvements are good enough to justify him staying. I think the improvements are basically the box standard I would expect from any team in the league, any team. Because I wouldn't say the improvements I'm seeing at Man U are any better than what I see from the likes of Burnley, from the likes of Sunderland. Well, Sunderland are outperforming you guys, or from the likes of Leeds. Is
Mm.
that level of consistency and performance is what I'm seeing from Manchester United. But it seems like your board have so much faith in him, but is looking bad at the moment. He's not paying himself in any glory by not being flexible.
So I think there's yeah. I mean, so what's kind of irritated me recently because obviously I'm sure everyone that's ever heard me talk knows that I was a big fan of his originally, and that hasn't actually changed. It's just the things that he used to do at Sporting, he's not doing. The bloody young talent. That's why I'm confused by the Menu situation
Mm.
because he brought through young players through Sporting his first season. These guys went off to then do crazy things like Nuno Mendes, like
Mm.
Mateus Nunes. And then recently, his last season there before he left, Giovanni Quenda, who's going to be a Chelsea player next season. So he's been blooding talent from academy. So I'm like, what's the situation here? What is it about Kobe that these guys are outperforming? Oh, sorry, underperforming rather, and he's not getting an opportunity. But you mentioned one name that needs to be really spoken about, and it's Ugarte. And I'm not blaming him solely for the performances and the results, but there's a big issue at hand here.
Mm.
I think it's apart from one game this season. Every time he's come off the pitch, off the bench rather, within the first 5 minutes of his time on the pitch, we concede a goal. Now, for someone who is supposed to be a defensive-minded midfielder, I won't call him a defensive midfielder because he's so up and down, but someone that is supposed to be defense first and protect the back line and marshal, that means he's not doing his job whatsoever. In fact, he's doing the total opposite. So you're bringing him on to protect leads, and he's doing anything but that. In fact, I think the stat, if I remember correctly, the stat is Man United have conceded 23 goals, and he's been on the pitch for 18 of them.
But yeah, yeah. If I yeah, it's an issue there. And I'll say this: Amorim doesn't paint himself in glory, especially if I take
Yeah.
yesterday. I think the substitutions are what killed you.
Well, that's what I'm alluding to. Yeah.
Went so far defensively. I mean, I think I think what was it, 4 or 5 subs you made, and only one of them was like an
Forward
attack,
thinking one. Yeah. Yeah.
and all of them were kind of defense. And I thought this is West Ham. You don't need to be this defense. West Ham weren't playing well anyway.
Mhm.
Created any chances, couldn't string together 4 or 5 good passes together in that team. I'm like, you've got the first goal, don't sit back. Still look to control the game and apply pressure to West Ham and get the second goal. And if you can't get the second goal, control the game. The moment he made those substitutions, that just gave West Ham a lot of impetus to attack you, which is what they did. And they could have got a second goal with some of the opportunities that they did
Yeah.
have later on in the game. And that was down to the tactics of the manager and the players he brought on. And this is why this is a thing I have with these new with coaches and Amorim included. I'm like, where is your in-game management? How are you seeing things differently? Of course, these teams, when you make those kind of substitutions, are going to take more risk going forward.
Yeah.
A team like West Ham should never be getting a point at Manchester United home, considering how they played in that game for the majority of that game.
Yeah.
The difference between if West Ham came and were putting in a good performance, and you say, hey, they're creating chances, then I'll say, you know what, shut up shop if they're creating. But West Ham weren't creating any chances in that game for your manager to have taken that approach for the last maybe 10 minutes of the game. So that was what disappointed me watching that game.
Yeah. You know what? I'm conscious of time. So Amarim, you're gonna get ripping from me. Anyway, I'm doing an individual video that's gonna go on the socials. So I got time for that one. So we'll talk about that one because he's disappointing me. But of all people, I'm the one that's gonna be annoyed the most
One
because
that defended him a lot, to be honest, and wanted him in. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, conscious of time because I know Basil has to go and meet some of his rich friends. We'll do some quick predictions. Aston Villa, Arsenal, what you got?
I'm going Arsenal. Do you know, I'm going Arsenal 2-0. If I wasn't an Arsenal fan, I probably would have gone maybe a draw,
Hmm.
which I have to be positive. Because the only reason because Villa have been one of our bogey teams.
Yes, yes.
That's the only reason why. It's nothing to do with Arsenal. If it's just like Villa away, they make life difficult. But I'm gonna go 2-0 Arsenal, tight game. Arsenal score and then maybe score the second quite late on in the game. If I'm
Fair.
going.
I think that's fair. I think I was going to go for an Arsenal win earlier, but I was thinking about Villa have been in good form as well. To be fair to them, they've picked up form very well, and they're scoring quite a bit of goals. They good comeback win as well. So I'll go 1-1.
I'll say this quickly, Kojo, about the thing about Villa are a funny team
Mm,
because they've won 8 of their last 9. I'll say in 70% of those games they haven't played well.
I
How
agree.
they got some of those results, I will never know when you look at it. Honestly, because they've gone under the radar because the performances haven't been good, but they've got the results. And
Yep.
so people realize, oh, Villa are, I think they're third now, but they've snuck up third because the performances haven't been eye-catching enough for people to really do much analysis on. But then obviously now because everyone has slipped and they've climbed, they're like, oh, they've got 89.
Yeah.
So so that's the reason why I've gone for an Arsenal Rich because I'm like, well, at the same time, Villa haven't been playing well in those games. They've got the results, but they haven't played well.
Yeah. Facts. Okay. I'll say the teams. Let's give scores. Bournemouth, Chelsea.
Bournemouth 2-1.
I agree. Everton, Forest.
I'm gonna go Everton 1-0.
I'll go reverse. Forest 1-0. So,
Okay.
City, Sunderland.
I'm going. I'm going. I'm not getting City win, but I'm
Okay.
torn between a 1-1 draw or a 2-1. I'm going 2-1 Sunderland. Who cares? I'm
Two
going
one.
2-1.
I would love that. I would love that. I'll go 2-1 City, but I would love that reverse. In fact, 3-1 City. Newcastle, Burnley.
Oh, I'm going Newcastle 2-0.
I'm going Newcastle 3-0. Um, Tottenham, Brentford.
I'm going Brentford 2-1.
Yeah, Brentford are winning the game. Leeds, Liverpool. Ooh,
Leeds are at home, right?
yep,
I'm going Leeds 2-1.
I agree. Let's do it. Run it. Brighton, West Ham.
Uh, I'm going 1-1.
1-1. Okay, I will go. You know, I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. Um,
Oh,
Fulham, Palace.
Palace 2-0.
I think that's going to be a hell of a 0-0 draw. Um,
Well, it could be, to be honest.
yeah, and just quick stat for everybody. Wolves have lost 7 of 7 in their last 7 games, but they come up against Man United. So what we're saying is it going to be 8 losses in a row, or are they going to pick up their first win in 8 games?
United have to spank Wolves. I'm going United 2-0. I may be wrong. Anyhow, United do not get 3 points against Wolves.
Yeah,
Get rid of Amorim.
yeah. I can't lie. I'm saying this. I'm saying this right now for record.
Also,
If
I think
Man
they've had,
United,
I think throughout the season, I think they've only what, is it 2 or 3 draws they've had
yeah, they've
in the
lost the rest.
entire season?
They haven't won a game since last season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they haven't won against a lot. So if United do not claim 3 points against this bad Wolves team, the
yeah. I
project's
com
done.
I completely agree. And in fact, I'm gonna say it has to be 3-0. If it's anything less, cut the cord.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Okay. For everyone that's been watching and listening, thank you very much. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the podcast. Thank you.